The number one statistic to determine if real estate is undervalued or overvalued is debatable, but it most certainly should be the average price of a home versus the average salary. If homes are unaffordable to the average person, they will take on too much debt and they will go bankrupt, lose the home, destroy their credit, lose everything they have, or what most people find themselves doing is trying to pay off their debt their entire lives. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at real estate. I want to have my focus here on Canada, also in the US as well. But of course, you see around the world, real estate prices have risen dramatically, particularly since the financial crisis. We have seen these rising and rising. We didn't learn the lessons from back in 2007, and now we pay the price. Even worse than last time around. What the US went through is really what the whole world is going through. And many people would point to subprime mortgages. That was a small fraction of the problem. Let's begin with this. The people who bought at the peak of Toronto's real estate bubble and then lost hundreds of thousands within months. So this article goes through that. This is from May here, so it's relatively recent information. The peak of Toronto's housing bubble is approximately April of 2017. The homes were selling for numbers you couldn't imagine. The average person would go in knowing that they were going to pay 30 to 40% above the asking price all the time. We're talking in the city, we're talking suburbs. It didn't matter. Whatever the asking price was, you were going to probably pay 30 to 40% over that. And you saw condominiums lagging behind. It was generally the detached homes that were seeing these real price advantages, okay? And the sellers are really making a killing off of this. So they were going in with this, with this desire that they would have to be able to pay much more than they initially would see, that asking price. Condominiums lagging behind, but as the homes became too expensive, we saw that trail behind, and now condominiums have risen significantly. When Toronto area home prices began their slide, the market served up painful lessons for buyers and sellers alike and revealed shady behavior that helped inflate prices in the first place. This article is out of Maclean's. I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I want to show you some of the details of that. These Toronto area homes were recorded as sold twice in 2017 and lost thousands in value when the market corrected. So you have to imagine what's happening here in Toronto, where you have a suburb that basically you can find dime a dozen type homes, cookie cutter homes, nothing special about these at all. But people were paying for that, and they saw the euphoria, and they went in head first and put whatever they can get it for. 30 to 40% over the asking, and only just a year before, the prices were so much lower, you have no idea. They skyrocketed out of nowhere, particularly in the suburbs. Talks about this one individual here, but then it gets into some other details. Hundreds of Greater Toronto area residents were caught when the housing market took an abrupt dive last year after a long run of booming activity. Home sales plummeted 32% from the peak, and prices cratered by 10 to more than 30% in the suburbs, depending on the municipality. That's a big, big fall. We're talking about levels that had never seen before, so clearly we're up very high, but still, it is a significant price drop. And imagine, we have interest rates right now that are still historically extremely low. If you compare the interest rates, which I'll do in a moment, between the US and Canada, Canada's is definitely lower. So imagine, just imagine as they bring up these interest rates, the result of this. The downtown area fared much better and condo prices kept rising. As I mentioned before, when the market began heading south, property appraisals came in lower than purchase prices and lenders refused to fully fund deals. I heard of this happening to individuals myself. Buyers were left scrambling to line up financing. If they walked away, they could lose their deposits and face a lawsuit. Some sellers, meanwhile, were counting on the proceeds to pay for their new homes. This is what the mentality of people. Well, I'm guaranteed to make so much money. My realtor told me, real estate agent told me. Therefore, I should be okay. I'm going to make a killing off of this. Well, it's not like that. A study by a Toronto brokerage found that 866 transactions in 2017 where a sale failed to close and the house was sold for less money when it was put back on the market later in the year. On average, the price dropped by $140,000. And it goes on. $140,000 is a very significant amount of money. Imagine these people here taking on mortgages that are $1 million. That's what a lot of these people had done. $1 million mortgage, quite frankly, for the average, let's say there's 2 income earners in the household, hopefully, and they're earning the average, because that's what it is. It's an average home. It's an average couple, let's say. And so they're making maybe $80,000. Let's even stretch that to $90,000 between the two. You're talking about $1 million mortgage. The bank will give that to you. That's not the problem. A lot of people think to themselves, well, you know, it's not a big deal because the bank's going to give me the money. The bank will let me loan that and no problem because I can afford these payments. But your payments they're not going to always be the same. If interest rates go up, your payments are going to be a lot higher. I assure you, never take these risks. It's so risky. For aspiring homeowners, coming up with a healthy down payment has long been the biggest obstacle to owning a home. This article is going to get into something, but I just wanted to mention the fact that I've talked about this before, wanted to bring it up on this video out of the New York Times here. I covered it from another publisher before, but we're going to talk about a company called Unison. Okay, just hang in there. With property values soaring in many areas, median prices in San Jose and Denver are 60% above their pre-recession peaks. The barrier is rising. That has some firms promoting unconventional ways to scrape together a down payment, including crowdfunding and using Airbnb rental income. Now, a small but growing number of home buyers are trying something different, asking an outside investor to put down money alongside them. So what they can do is bear the risk. If that home is to drop in value, well, that investor is going to come in and they're going to take some of that burden away. So they'll say, hey, I'm going to make money if real estate goes up, but if real estate goes down, I'll take some of the loss with you. It's an interesting concept, I believe. But what does it tell us about what's happening here? Everything is becoming an investment. Your home is now an investment. Number one, to the bank who originated the mortgage to you. They take that, they package it up, securitize it, collateralize it, sell it all over the place, split it up, mix it in with credit card debt and all this garbage. We saw that, okay? We saw the mess that caused. Okay, so then that's one thing. Then they also have this ability to split the mortgage, and a company like Unison can come in and they can share the burden with you. A company based in San Francisco, the largest of a handful of firms putting it to work, Unison will provide at least half of the consumer's down payment in exchange for a piece of any appreciation in the home's value when it is sold. If the home sells at a loss, the company absorbs a share of that too. I think that's a good thing for some people who can't afford the home. They're thinking to themselves, well, you know what? If I can't afford it, well, at least I can still get in the home. They'll take ownership. That's okay. And then they make a little bit of a profit. Don't worry, we're going to upgrade our home 5 years from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And so we'll eventually be able to afford our own home fully at some point. I think it's okay. Like if somebody wants to do this, you know, you can do that. But what's the real harm in not being able to buy a home? If you can't afford it, that's okay. You don't have to buy it. That's the whole point about debt. We've been given these things that are there for us: credit cards, line of credit, mortgages, second mortgages, all these different debt type of instruments, if you want to call them like that. And so many people will just take advantage of every single one. And then they pay off the minimums, or maybe they pay off more than that. That's fine, whatever. But we look at this as we think, we have this idea that, you know, I have a car, I have a home, I have vacations that I go on, I have an iPhone, I have this and that, okay? And all of these things are being purchased, financed with debt. And the person says, I don't really care. I can use it. I can go on that vacation. I can do what I want. But it doesn't really work like that. When you have to pay it off with debt, number one, you're going to be paying back a lot more than you initially put into it. That's a big mess in my opinion. But at the same time, you fund and fuel the banksters. A lot of people don't really care about that either. I would say that this is not necessarily a good thing. They've made us think that we own it. But of course we never do. So is this ownership thing really something that all people should be working towards? You know, that quote unquote American dream? I don't think so. I think it's totally reasonable. You know, a lot of very, very wealthy people, they rent their homes. There's different reasons for it. Definitely. Just one name that comes to my mind right now is Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone is a big believer in renting homes. The guy is a multi-millionaire, known for being in sales. He's also big into real estate as well. Okay, Grant Cardone. So that's just one example. Don't go anywhere. Make sure to click on part 2 of this video. So much more information to cover. See you there.